Hi and welcome to another Career Stories episode. My name's Joe.
And I'm Carrie.
You should know already, but we are careers advisors for Skills Development Scotland, and this podcast is about having conversations with lovely people in their jobs to find out a little bit behind the scenes about what they do, what the kind of ambitions they've got for the future, and just really help you guys figure out if this is something you want to do, what are the kind of ins and outs that you need to know.
Definitely. And we're joined by the lovely Hannah Cochrane today, who works at SEC Glasgow. So we're very excited to find out a little bit more about that, because I think a lot of us have been to events there. We maybe don't know all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And I think a lot of people that I know, especially even in my family, really are interested in this sort of job. But do they know all the ins and outs of it? So it'd be amazing to find out a bit more about that today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Because you mentioned something about...
my stepson, he's really interested in business, and he's doing a college course in business, and he's going to be going, he's interested in like events and things like that. So yeah, you better tune in for this one or I'll be raging.
Well, if I can inspire the one, then that's perfect.
That is very good. Now I'm going to give a bit of background about you, right? So you can say whether or not our information is accurate here. So Hannah is a sales and business development manager at SE. Is that your exact title, or have you got like another like 7 on top of that? Is that exactly?
That is my exact title.
Yes, good. Because you know how you've got titles where it just never stops.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh cool. You've also previously worked in the same role for Dakota Hotels and Chilprior. Now, just because I've eaten there, I know how to say that word.
You've done very well.
Yeah, reading that, I was like, never getting that. And you're also a multi-award winner in the hospitality industry.
Oh, gosh.
I know. I was like, get her linked up. On top of that, you're no stranger to a podcast because you host 2, is that correct?
I previously did.
Oh, yes. Amazing. Awesome. What was that podcast called?
It was called Pure Buzzin'.
Oh, I love that.
The most Scottish.
That's so good.
Yeah, we started it actually just out of the pandemic, and it was with it was a head concierge from, at that time, the Crown Plaza Hotel, now at Mar Hall, along with Strathclyde University. So it was actually just to shed some positive news stories on the industry as a whole at quite a tricky time. We had quite a lot of closures and negativity in the press around hospitality and tourism at that time. So we were interviewing just industry leaders about the future, positive, what was coming next.
Awesome.
It was great fun. Loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. See, as much as we do this podcast, I've always been someone I've never really listened to many podcasts. So whenever, like recently, I've been getting proper into them. So I'm going to add that to my list to listen to.
Oh, it's awful. It's horrible. Listening back to your own voice is just the hardest thing.
Oh, I must admit, I started watching a few episodes and I was like, skip my questions so I can hear the guest a little bit, because it is tough. So I think obviously the best place to start, when we always start, I think, with these podcasts, is to find out a bit about maybe how you even got to this point of where you are now. So from, usually like to start with the kind of school, early school stage. You know, was it something you thought about at that time, or did you have a total different plan?
My career has been very zigzagged. It wasn't a direct plan at all. Going through high school, to be honest, I wasn't the most academic of students. I didn't have a direct career path. My mum worked in education, and we've got very similar personalities in the fact that we're strong-minded, good communicators, very nurturing, I guess. So it felt quite natural for me to look towards primary teaching, because that's what my mum did and has loved for the last 30 years. So I actually went to university to study early education and childcare, and I got my diploma with that. But part-time I was working in hospitality, waitressing. Started off as a housekeeper, actually, cleaning bedrooms when I was 16. And that kind of sparked my passion, I guess, for what we do. I studied for 5 years, so went to college first and then University of West of Scotland. And in the meantime, worked 2 to 3 jobs, I guess, throughout the summer months, often, and I just loved it. As soon as I graduated, I just wanted that to be my full-time job instead of what I'd studied. Went straight into wedding planning, actually, after that with House for an Art Lover. I was working there as a waitress for a while beforehand, so I'd actually worked in their banqueting team, just getting to know what the weddings looked like. So it felt like a nice natural step. I had a lot to learn. I was wrong. It wasn't natural, but I loved it. Especially in the wedding side, everyone, it's such an emotional connection you've got with couples. And so you really just get to know them and their energy and just make the magic happen, I guess, from that sense. House for an Art Lover was also a brilliant venue to work in because it's Rennie Mackintosh inspired. It's very Glasgow. And so what you see is what you get. So you had a lot of like arty couples coming in, maybe second marriages. So it's just really special. After that, I moved to Chao Phraya. So different take on it because you were selling the restaurant as a space, kind of private dining in a way. And that was me kind of going out to Glasgow and selling what we could do with Thai cuisine. After that, moved to the Dakota Hotels. So they are a gorgeous brand to work with. With them, I represented Scotland. So they've got Glasgow Eurocentral, which is Motherwell Way, and Edinburgh and South Queensferry. Loved that. A lot of that market was kind of luxury clientele, corporate market, but also looking at things like sport and golf, which I didn't really factor in beforehand.
Now we're talking.
See, this is where golf, I'm just like...
Well, I seen you nodding with weddings and I thought, I'll get in with golf and that's fine. I can switch, right, we'll tag
See,
in.
I've not been married though. Everyone that I know is on like their second or third wedding, and I'm like here like...
There's
not
always,
a wedding.
Carrie, there's always time, right?
Okay.
Be positive. Okay. Sorry.
Not at all. And then after the Dakota, moved to the SEC.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So how long have you been at SEC now?
Coming up for 2 years.
Amazing.
So I work in the conference sales team. So sales and business development manager, but essentially my job is to sell the SEC campus, which is obviously the Centre, the Armadillo and the Ovo Hydro, to corporate businesses for events. And what that could be is maybe like local Glasgow-based companies, it could be UK-based, or it could actually be international. Lots of different industries, could be technology, pharmaceuticals, retail. So it's really exciting because it gets us to speak to so many different people with so many different event briefs as well. So it's really exciting just to mould the SEC as we know it into something cultured and different each time.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I love that. And I'm assuming that no 2 days are the same then in this type of job.
That. Yeah, exactly that.
Amazing.
And it definitely gets my step count up as well because it's a big campus.
It's good to hear though, like the kind of organic growth for you in terms of like knowing that, you know, you still went to uni and you still got your education, but wasn't really the thing that you want to do, because we discuss all the time, obviously as school careers advisors, or careers advisors generally, but we work in schools, is you talk about the journey and kids think the very first thing they do might be the thing they do forever, and we try and encourage that might not be the case, and ultimately at this moment in time you felt like this is the right decision for you, and obviously you did, but clearly over your kind of years of studying and your own experience in hospitality, you thought actually that's probably the best route. So it's quite encouraging to hear that you just went with what you thought was right and what you're passionate at.
Do you know, it's funny because even though I studied something completely different, the transferable skills were very much the same.
Yeah, of course.
Like talking about early education and childcare, a lot of the kind of stand fast practice that you'd be taught and the policies that you'd be taught, it's very much similar actually to the behaviour and approach you should take with a client, or when you're waitressing, just having that communication, that positivity, that openness to communicate. It's very transferable. It's just I had the hospitality bug and was bit very early and loved it. I couldn't see a future without it.
I think that's true. I always we have conversations with like young people in school all the time, and quite often like a first job for many, many people is hospitality. Mine was Nando's. I was there for a couple of years, and I genuinely think that anyone who has had that sort of experience of working in hospitality is so well set up for any job, because you're dealing with absolutely everything, and you've never known people being annoyed until they've got like a cold nugget or a burnt bit of chicken or something like that, and then you're having to deal with it. So to be able to kind of deal with those sorts of things, it kind of sets you up for anything, whether that's uni, whether that's going into different careers or staying in the same career and moving through it. I think it definitely really helps.
Yeah, it teaches you that resilience quite early on, and just the adaptability. It's fast paced, it's always moving, and you really do have to think on your feet. But what I also love about the industry is that no matter where your strengths lie, there's a department for you that fits.
Yes.
So whether that is chefs transferring from a kitchen porter and upwards and developing in that sense, for me, going into sales was my natural development because I wanted to be more people focused rather than being working kind of operationally. But there's so many different avenues, which I love.
Which is good to hear though, because I think what we see is everybody, particularly in your early like research of careers, everybody knows the same jobs, but they don't realise how big the industry is as a whole and where the journey could be. And I mean, you've started pretty much from the beginning and really pushed yourself and put yourself in positions where you weren't really sure, and it's obviously worked out. It's trying to say to people, just because you start here doesn't mean that's where you stay forever. And some people do, and they love it. But for others, it's to say that there is growth in every industry as long as you kind of understand how that works and you push yourself, which obviously you did. Even from like your cleaning days, I thought it was interesting when you said, because you started when you were 16, and I am an advocate for saying as soon as you get the opportunity to work, regardless of how comfortable you are, regardless of your situation, it's just a great thing to get out and get experience in the working as early as you can, which you clearly did. So like, how long were you there for when you did that?
So that was with Marhall Hotel. I grew up in Bishopton, so that was my kind of most local hotel. I worked in housekeeping for 3 years and developed into becoming a part-time supervisor before I was 18. And it was an industry, it was a department full of women that were older than I was. So going in to check their bedrooms and the quality of their work, it's a lot. But I loved it. Definitely grew me as a person. I then moved from housekeeping, still in Marhall, into banqueting to do waitressing, and I worked in weddings, events, and in the restaurant. And then I did a short stint behind reception as well, before moving on. And I think it is so important to find what department feels right to you, because as soon as I moved into the waitressing side of things, I knew that I wanted to be people focused and I wanted to speak to people. Still, I will say that as a housekeeper, you are the beating heart of a hotel. Without a housekeeper, you cannot run the hotel. So it's crucial. But I knew that I wanted to be speaking with the public.
I think that says a lot as well. I've been in jobs before, like I used to work for the NHS, and as much as I enjoyed it, I wasn't in a talky job, and I was running around the hospital getting things, and then I was very much like, this makes me sad. And it wasn't anything to do with like the workplace, it was to do with the fact that I had nobody to talk to, and now I talk to people all the time, which is perfect. So it's finding what suits you, and you've done that as you've been working through. And I always think to say to people, it's like you pick the bits of the job that you like, and then you find the next thing that goes with those bits.
100%.
Yeah, so that sounds fantastic. See, with the wedding planning, I can't imagine anything more stressful. Like, because obviously it must be so lovely to be part of that and to make something so special, but the pressure, how did you cope with that?
Do you know what? I loved it. It's all just about the rapport that you have and maintaining and building those relationships. I was lucky enough that the venue that I worked in, what you see is what you get. But we also had a fantastic team of chefs and operational team that helped me with that. It wasn't just me that was running it. So from early on, we would have meetings with couples to introduce all departments to them, so they knew who was going to be serving their dinner that evening, who was taking lead on setups and all that. It is intense because there's so many emotions in it.
Yes.
And it maybe would have been a different experience. I know venues now, like barn styles, you need to fully do the setup on your own. That's a lot. I never had to experience that. But it's a really, really fun part of the events world, for sure. Because you're only going to do it once, we hope. And it's just amazing to know that you've participated in that. To be honest, I planned the weddings for 4 years, and the only reason why I moved on is just that I had kind of lost my love for it. And to do that kind of job, you really need to be passionate and in it. And when I felt like I was ready for something new, that's when I made the leap, but it's not because of any negative experiences anyway. I loved it.
But it's so important though to recognise that in yourself, to recognise when it is time for that new challenge. And I think that's sometimes when people find themselves in that comfy position where they're like, I know what I'm doing and I can go in and I can do it with my eyes shut, blindfolded, everything like that, but they don't have that passion anymore. So actually recognising when it's time to go, right, I need a new challenge. I think that's really important, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I think what's really lovely as well, like throughout my journey, is that the industry as a whole has really lovely like mentors. I've been lucky enough to meet 3 or 4 at least fantastic leaders that have kind of helped pave my way forward. So I've learned a lot from them and developed my career in a way that they've kind of helped me create those stepping stones. So like for the wedding side, my managing director at the time was very positive about the growth and how we could take things forward, and gave me a lot of leeway in terms of what we could do with that side of things. And it's just a really lovely industry in that sense, because like People Make Glasgow slogan we use a lot at the SEC, but it does ring true for like a lot of our inspiring leaders as well. They're all open to share.
But that's if we talk about a major skill is networking and the communication aspect, and people feel that that's starting to drop away from kids at the moment because there isn't a lot of that face-to-face unless you see them in school and stuff, but it's a bit more difficult. For you, like, that's clearly been the main driving skill that you've probably used up until this point, and probably asking, you talk about your mentors, but probably maybe not giving yourself maybe your own pat in the back, that you probably asked the questions and you were curious and you were probably wanting to see about growth and things like that. So other than obviously communication, knowing that's going to be the key skill that you're going to say, is there anything else though that you've used, I guess, and to get to this point in the role that you're currently doing?
I think if I can give any piece of advice, it's just that when things might feel uncomfortable or out of your comfort zone, just push forward. Like some of the most accomplished things I've achieved so far have come from me feeling out of control and out of my depth. But you grow from that. On the networking side, I started a networking group in Glasgow called, now that's what I call networking. Right. And it was with Courtney Flynn, who works with Base Collection Restaurants, and Charlene Lowe from the Beatson. The networking group basically runs and makes profit for the Beatson. Right. So we have about 100 attendees that come each event, and so far we've raised over £20,000 for the Beatson Cancer Charity.
That's amazing.
And the first event that we ran was just out of the pandemic, and I hadn't spoken to anyone in person. We had 80 people in a room, and I went and sat in the toilets and cried and got really overwhelmed because I hadn't had an experience like that before. But it was just like an inner pep talk of like, right, you can do it. Like you're not just attending this event, but I was running it. Just put your best foot forward and do it. And we're now 4 years on. And we've hosted at the Hydro. We've grown it exponentially, and it's something I'm really proud of. So any piece of advice would just be just do it.
Yes, perfect. And then see, obviously you'll probably have lots of things that you can think of with this, but what's the best part of your job just now? What do you love the most about it?
I think for me it is building and maintaining relationships, first of all. Getting to meet loads of different people in lots of different industries and creating magic, I guess. I also am really proud as a Glaswegian to sell Glasgow as an event space. I love the partnership approach that comes from the SEC. When we bring clients into Glasgow, it's not just my bit of it, it's also knowing that every touch point that you get in Glasgow is a positive one. So from like Glasgow taxis, going up to your hotel, going to your bars and restaurants in the Finniston area, for example, I'm just proud to represent Glasgow in the sense that we do really well in this space, and it's going to be a positive experience. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And I think as well, that's something that a lot of people that we speak to have, is that pride of where they're from and wanting to kind of share that with others. So to have that as part of your job, amazing.
I know. When was the last time you went to the Hydro? What was you going to see?
I think I went to see Amy McDonald at the Hydro.
Nice.
Yeah, my friend Marlena, she got me tickets for my birthday because our birthdays are right close together. So we went to see Amy McDonald, and it was amazing. It was such a good night. It was.
I just like, that's why I like Glasgow as well. Because it's convenient. So like when we've got like, obviously the Hydro being one of the bigger events that we've got, it's so handy to get to.
Yeah.
So like, you can plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
and places round about that, like you say, the bars, the restaurants, everything. It's not just like in a silo on its own sort of thing. You can get to other places.
It's really collaborative. Like on campus, we've got the 7 on-site hotels as well around us, and I must talk to those sales managers on a weekly basis about what we've got coming in and out. They offer us lots of incentives if we've got clients visiting for the first time. It's that, along with the support that we find from the convention bureau and like the city bodies, is amazing.
Yeah, because that's a good point you mentioned there. So not only are you trying to get, I guess, the sales aspect where you're trying to get people in, but you have to make sure that everything goes to plan. So making sure that, you know, you're collaborating with so many different partners, which is probably takes up more of your time, I guess.
And again, I've got so many talented people around me actually for that support as well. In the SEC, I am part of the sales team, but we also have a vast number of event planners as well, who help me operationally. We have technical support, we have IT, we have medical staff, cleaning staff, stewarding. So it's a big operation, and we all feed into each other.
I know. And when we go to these totally unaware of actually what goes on behind the scenes, just like, there's my seat, there's my ticket, put on a show.
But even getting you safely into the hydro, all of this needs to be pre-programmed and pre-thought through. And at the moment, we're actually going through a lot of changes outside of the hydro for our stewarding, so that you can actually just walk in via the scanners.
Nice.
So that is kind of underway at the moment, which is really exciting.
I take, is that just because of the queuing sometimes can be
it will help
a little
the queuing,
bit? Not that I moan about queuing, okay? I'm not moaning about queuing. I just understand it can be tough because it's individual searches, isn't it? So it's quite hard.
It also cuts down a lot on cost for that. We don't need as much manpower. We can do all that. I mean, technological advancements are now
part of every business.
Exactly that. So we're just amending the approach, as we all are.
And I think it kind of comes down to as well, like when you're saying there that you're in this team and you're working with this team, and you've got the people that you're working with more often, you've got the people that kind of showing how important that communication and teamwork is, because a lot of people, they don't quite realise that. They think like, I go in and might do my job. But then if you just go in and do your thing with like blinkers on, then it's not going to go well, is it? Especially in that sort of area, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we're really lucky because like a win for me is a win for the city.
Yes.
And by bringing in 1,000 delegates, for example, for a conference, that is 1,000 bedrooms. That is 1,000 people eating in the city. And it's just the wider approach to what that looks like for Glasgow City as a whole. It's really cool to be part of.
Oh, amazing. I'm not going to lie, a win for me is a win for the city. Could be the line of the podcast for me.
Such a good
that
one.
Is like superhero material. I'm a fan of that. But I totally get it. I think ultimately like, we are all proud of where we come from, so it's good to see how many people, obviously I know we've got SEC, but obviously there's different bodies out there in the hospitality sector trying to bring people into Glasgow and keep it busy and keep it lively. So it's good to see that you're part of it. So what about, I know, sorry to go back because I like to dive back as well. I know obviously you went through the idea of doing the teaching aspect as well. So if you think of your job now currently, if you remember what you did in school, not that you are old and dig a room. I'm terrible for it. What do you think is important subjects? So if you think about like school now, right, the kids were going through events management, what are kind of 2 or 3 key subjects you think if they were doing that, it definitely would help longer term for them?
I mean, for me, and every path is different, which is why I love the No Wrong Path. I have been an advocate for sharing mine for the last couple of years, but for me, English was key. But actually just getting an understanding of like written English, we pulled together a lot of proposals. A lot of that is text heavy, just getting to terms with different language and how to speak to different people in different ways. I actually was am very musical. That helped with me just, I guess, being less introverted in a way. Just being able to put myself out there and express myself in certain ways, be quite creative. They're the 2 subjects that really jump out at me. When I think about the way that my team is built up now, we're all very different workers and have very different strengths. So when creativity is mine, I lean on the analytical side a lot with my current line manager and vice versa. So there is no wrong way to do it in terms of personality traits. But those 2 are are key for me.
And I think we're quite lucky as well now that there is more options. Like from when I was at school 100 million years ago, when like it was your straight English, maths, your language, your social subject. Whereas like there's kids and they're doing travel and tourism. They're doing
they're doing hospitality, as well, so they can go to college and do it as well. So.
And it's not just like when I did hospitality at school, it was just the cooking, whereas they're going and doing hospitality and they're serving, they're learning how to, serve customers, how to plate things up, like all sorts of different things. And I'm like, there's so many things that kids do at school now, and I'm like, I would have loved to have done that. So these are all going to be helpful things as well. But like you say, there's going to be people who have strengths in one thing and strengths in another, and it's about how you all mesh together and support each other. So
there's also fantastic apprenticeships options in the hospitality industry. There's also a lot of bodies just for development throughout your career. Hospitality and Tourism Trust, Hit Scotland, they are fantastic. I'm currently doing a scholarship with them. It's called Women in Tourism, and it's just about uplifting and pushing ourselves forward and sharing best practice. But they do loads of stuff in terms of basic knife skills, for example, for inspiring chefs. Or I did negotiations training just to feel comfortable in that space. And it's all funded scholarships. Brilliant. You just need to be ready for the development. So there's, even when you're in your career, whatever stage you're at, there's options there for growth.
What are quite like popular apprenticeships do you see in the hospitality? What kind of things have you seen before? That is it quite business side? Is it a bit of mixture of business and then obviously
a real mix?
Good.
We still, in the SEC specifically, we've got a fantastic people team that work closely with the schools and universities, and we have had some early school leavers join us recently, and they actually meet with lots of different departments within the team, and they'll, for example, plan an event and they'll put forward a pitch and speak to the teams about what that would look like and logistically how would that work. And it just is a really basic understanding, but it gives you maybe 3 or 4 weeks worth of knowledge to take forward in your career. For longer term apprenticeships, it actually just depends. I know that the Marriott brand do fantastic things, just depending on what your interests are, to be honest. So whether that is guest experience and we can nurture you through that, or indeed housekeeping, if you've got the intention to start there and you want to get into leadership, just it's all about personal development, and it's like a personal plan that they would build for you.
I even love that word, and just the nurturing through it, because I think a lot of times when people are young, leaving school, it can feel like such a big leap to go from you're at school and you're told you have to be at this class at this time, you have to do this at this time, and then you're suddenly in an apprenticeship or in a workplace, and there's more of being expected to just know what to do. So I think having that nurturing, and I think that can come down to almost the research, like we're always saying, like look these places up, look up the places that are offering these, because there are going to be places that are going to be a bit more nurturing than others. So it's looking at the reputation of the place and kind of finding the one that suits you. So that's fab. I love it.
That's great. I mean, the one thing that I find we talk about in every episode is like digital, and obviously you talked about digital in terms of your working environment, but are you a social, obviously you did podcasts, so is social quite a big part even for you in terms of your current job, or is it just something you keep up to date with for your own, I don't know, I guess your own progression, or is it something you use much?
I think a bit of both.
Okay.
I use LinkedIn a lot as a tool for networking, meeting people, but also just to stay connected and stay current, I guess, with whether that is other cities and their developments, what they're up to, or whether that is just trying to find out who is where. It's a really fast-paced environment, so we do find that people do tend to progress or change to a different business. It's just trying to stay current. I think LinkedIn is a brilliant tool for that, and I use that for both personal and professional.
That's good.
Yeah.
I know I've got a LinkedIn.
I have a LinkedIn too.
But I think because of like where we are, I think we maybe don't use it as much as we would unless we're all looking for that kind of.
I think that's it. I think it's one of those ones that I've seen a lot of people use it so well, and it's been so important for their development, for their networking. And then for me, I've got lots of people on my LinkedIn who are all careers people, and I'm like, I wonder who else could I like interact with. So I might go, that might be some homework for me to use it a bit better.
But it's good, you can see it. It's good for people sharing their stories and their work and their progress. And
Definitely.
I think even just for your own map of your own career, because sometimes you can be in the same job for so long and you forget when it comes to a time where you're transitioning away, you go, what did I do that was really good that matches the job I'm moving into? And you're trying to remember all those projects and things you've run. So it's definitely useful, I would say, for that as well, for sure. But
and even for the people who, like, if you are progressing to a different like employer, they can look you up and they can see all this without, you can get so much more detail from LinkedIn than you get from a 2-page CV. And they can get a real feel for you as a person, what's important to you, what you're passionate about. So I think definitely a good
I
thing.
look forward to CVs disappearing in some fashion and we get something new and exciting than just a bit of paper that
I think we'll move that way.
I think we've got to. Getting judged on a bit of paper is never a fun way to start
Definitely
your career journey.
No.
So we'll see.
Although that is the hardest bit, isn't it?
It is.
Selling
the
yourself on paper.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I always say, like one of the terms I use is like Americanise yourself a little bit. So like, because in America are very good at selling themselves, very good at hyping them up whether they've got those skills or not. Whereas I think we're a bit humble sometimes, a wee bit too like, should I say I'm good at things? I think you really, like you said, you should push yourself and really try and put yourself out there because it's competitive and it's tough. What about you now? Obviously you've moved quite far in maybe a short period of time. What's your kind of next ambitions for maybe even the role that you're in at the moment, that, have you got your own personal goals that you're setting for yourself?
I do. The SEC was my goal. I wanted to get there. That was my end game. So I'm delighted to be in the team. For me, I'm looking forward to next steps for them. We're aiming to be net zero by 2030 as a campus, and actually Glasgow City are aligning with that date as well. So for me, it's looking forward for 5 years and actually getting to be in the team where we celebrate that huge milestone, because we'll be one of the first cities in the UK to have achieved that. Wow. So really, really exciting. I think also just being in the room with industry leaders is a bit of a future ambition for me, and having a voice to speak for the positive side. We talked about early stages of my career, but probably when I was in school, hospitality wasn't necessarily seen as a full-time career. I didn't really see at careers fairs and things the representation there, and I would like to change that and be part of that process. And then I guess I mentioned earlier that I've had some fantastic mentors, but to me that feels like my next step. I want to inspire and I want to be able to speak to newcomers and really just inspire the next generation about why the industry is so good.
See, this is what we need. This is what we need in these careers and in these industries, is people who love it so much that they can then go out and say, this is what's amazing, this is what I love, and inspire other people to then come in. And then you've got like almost not a conveyor belt, that sounds really horrible, but you've got a conveyor belt, for lack of a better word, of people who really want to be in the job that they're in, and who really want to progress and do their best and make a difference, because you can make a difference no matter what job you're in. 100%. And I think sometimes people think, like, have it in their heads, unless I'm doing this, if I'm not a doctor, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, I can't make a difference. But you can make a difference in anything you do, whether that's to one person or to multitudes. So
100%.
I think,
and it doesn't matter at what age you make that change.
Exactly.
I've worked with some incredible retired veterans before who are now just transferring into a different career, and it's just learning those basic skills again, but they make fantastic concierge. They've got the chat, they've got the gift of the gab, and it's exactly that. It's just recognising that there's a space there. You just need to mould into what you want.
And listen, you mentioned about, maybe some stigmas around certain industries, particularly hospitality. I think you said it was not like that. I still think there's an element of that, where, and it maybe doesn't really necessarily derive from like the school or the people, but, in a house where it's like, is that a career? It's seen as, a job that you do for a short period of time, then you move on. But actually you can see from even just your journey in a short period of time where the growth can be for someone if they're willing to push themselves. So it's encouraging. That's why we're having these chats with people like yourself, to show that there is opportunities for growth in any industry. So it's been brilliant that you've been here to kind of represent the hospitality industry.
I think that's it as well, though. Like I said, I worked at Nando's, and like it was when I was working there, I left school, I went to college, I was doing jewellery making, which I don't know why I've did that because I'm not very good at that sort of thing. But I was one of these terrible people who never saw a careers advisor and went and did this course just for something to do. And then I hated it, so I dropped out and I went full-time at Nando's. And from the minute I went full-time at Nando's, it was, so what are you going to do though? Because that's not a forever job. And actually, I loved it. I absolutely loved working at Nando's, and I loved like the relationships you build, the fun. Like nobody's had fun in their work as much as you have in hospitality. There's so much silliness, and there's like lots, and you're around all sorts of different ages, and it's just fab. And I loved it. But you did have that stigma of people being like, so what are you going to do now? And you're like, well, I'm quite enjoying what I'm doing actually. So I think it's so good to have people who people can look at and say, no, I can make what I want of this, and it's okay to do whatever I want because it's me that has to do it.
That's
exactly, it's my life.
Can I be dead nosy though? Because I picked up on the fact that you said I like music. No, I'm like, you obviously either sing or play an instrument or something, surely. Because you said, and I know you don't need to share if you don't want to, but I'm really nosy about it because obviously I do music as well, and I'm conscious, obviously, because that's what I'm asking. And no, but some people that will become their career, and some people it doesn't, right? And there's probably a time that you've maybe even considered the aspect of going, is this something I even want to do for real or like full time? Like, so can I be nosy? Can I ask about it? So music wise, what's that like for you? Obviously, say it's a big part.
So I sing.
Awesome.
In kind of bars and restaurants throughout the city in my own time.
Awesome.
And I'm part of a wedding band, which I love.
Nice.
My dad is musical, so he sings. So that's been part of my life, my whole life.
Yep.
We used to always tour and gig. I remember going to the Berlin Beer Festival when my dad's band was playing, and I just thought, that's iconic.
Awesome.
And so I started doing that maybe 4 years ago, and don't get me wrong, it did take me a long time to gather up the courage to even put myself forward in that sense, and it took my dad to just call me up on stage and make me feel really uncomfortable for a lot of his gigs for me to actually think maybe I could do it. But yeah, I love it. Maybe I'm out singing 2 or 3 times a week.
Awesome.
Which is great, and it lets me still tie in with hospitality, but just in a different way of just entertaining you. But it's brilliant. I haven't actually thought about doing it full time, but that is just because it is my hobby.
And
definitely. My fear is always that if you tip too much into that, my love would kind of dwindle a little bit, whereas right now I love having it as a bit of a passion project. And
I think also like with music, if it becomes like a source of income to a point where you rely on it, it can be tricky because then it becomes something you have to push for all the time. But it's good to see that even that though, and that's why I asked, because I think some people can give up. We notice pretty much from like maybe 5th year, a lot of kids start to give up on their hobbies and the things they love because obviously the focus is on academia, but actually you still need something for yourself that you get to maybe kind of enjoy and escape and not giving up too early just because we need to get hires.
And it's something that'll keep you for the rest of your life if you're interested in it. We were talking beforehand before this, and I was saying I used to sing in places as well, and then I just stopped because I was like, I'm too busy. I've got work to do, and I stopped doing it, and then you lose the confidence, don't you? So
Well, that's good. It's good to keep going.
Definitely. So
I think it's also just finding that work-life balance, knowing that that's something that I do in my own time, but before starting the SEC I was very honest about my hobbies and what that takes for me to achieve that, and we very early on had those conversations about how to make that work because I don't want to stop. It's part of my personality now, and it's an outlet for me as well. So I think it's crucially important. It's the same with like voluntary positions and things. For example, as a school leaver going into education, I was volunteering with the Girl Guides at the time because again it was something to add to my CV, and it just allowed me to put myself forward in a society that was like-minded in a similar sense. And same, maybe when I hit 19, 20, I thought, oh no, I can't do that anymore. But I regret it. I really do.
I think we all go through stages like that though,
definitely.
I mean, I got into I sing as well, but I only got into music probably about 20, 21, random text, do you want to come and do this? And I was like, could you sing in your room? And I'm like, Okay, but like you say, like sometimes pushing yourself into uncomfortable situations. Because at first I felt like a fish out of water, but then it's like you, it's an escape for me as well, and keeps you busy. And it's good to say to anybody watching this, you can still have your hobbies, you can still have the things alongside your work. But listen, it's been amazing talking to you today.
So
like
good.
really enjoyable for us, especially because we're on to the new season.
Yes.
So as well.
So it's been exciting. So lovely speaking to you, and it's fab. I think we're just nosy, aren't we? We're just nosy people.
Really, you've seen that with the way I asked about music. I could go, right, what pubs are you in? What's your dates? We're coming. Like, we get really.
Yes, exactly. We want them.
I know, exactly. Thanks for listening. It was great speaking to Hannah. If you've got a future ambition to work in events, then if you want to find a wee bit more about it, obviously listen to this again, because this will keep you right. Or go to My World of Work. There's loads of information about all different sectors and careers there as well. Or speak to your local careers advisor. Remember, we are based in every public school in Scotland pretty much, and we should have a local base somewhere near you where you can kind of pop in and have a chat at any point you like.